Hello, everyone. Welcome. I see so many of you chatting already in the chat box to the side. Welcome to Knit with Laura and Lola. I'm Laura Nelkin. I'm a knitwear designer. I live in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region, and I am joined by my alter ego, Lola. Lola is very fun. I've got her drinking a little chamomile tea today because she's kind of excited. I want to keep her down a little. I realized that I have not done a live vlog since like last spring. And as I was kind of like looking back at these, I realized that I'm my most myself and Lola is the most herself when I shoot these live and I'm not recording. So I am going to try to go back to doing these live potentially every other Wednesday night. I'm working on maybe building a schedule and trying to keep to it at least for the winter months when we're all inside a little more, because I don't know if you all have noticed, but it is sweater weather here. It is finally fall. I freaking love fall so much. And as much as I loved summer, some of you heard me complaining that we had a lot of mosquitoes this year. So the last part of the summer, there was some kind of trifecta with the moisture and the heat, and it got really hard to be outside for more than like 4 minutes. Like after 4 minutes, they just freaking find you. And then it was just not pleasant to be out in my yard. I was not enjoying it at all. And suddenly with this cold snap, I walked with a friend this morning and there was not one bug on our whole walk. And I have to tell you that I really love that. I was wearing a wool jacket. I was kind of in my element, being a little, like my nose was a little chilly. Definitely really loved it. I see a lot of you in the chat box, and if you all want to introduce yourselves and say where you're from, it's really fun to see where everybody's from. I see Trinidad, and I saw Texas, Andrea from Texas, New York City. Some people are saying it's 90 degrees where they are and not sweater weather at all. So I'll try to keep in mind that you all are coming in from everywhere and not necessarily experiencing what I'm experiencing. So my deepest apologies if you are still battling the mosquitoes. Hopefully you'll get a cold snap soon and maybe they won't be quite so crazy. I see Georgia, Reno, Michigan, Ohio, Montana, London, Ontario, Michigan, where sweater weather just arrived, Buffalo, Richmond, Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia. Awesome. Some people are knitting in the AC right now. That is a great segue for me as you all are introducing yourselves in the chat to tell you that I hope you have some knitting with you. I plan on being very entertaining this evening. So grab your knitting, grab a cup of tea, grab an adult beverage if that is your favorite thing to do at this time of day. And we're gonna dive right in. I have just a slew of things to tell you about. I've kind of built piles up for these things. I had so much for this that I actually took some things and put them aside for the next time I do one, because it was like we were going to be here for 3 hours and I know we all have to get on with our evenings as well. So try to keep these a reasonable amount of time. One of my big goals for shooting vlogs is to stop saying so much. Is my kind of go-to in between when I'm not sure what I want to say word. And Max, my producer, husband person, and I were talking about techniques we could use, like maybe we could do a drinking game where every time I say you drink, right? That would be fun. Or maybe he could come up with a counter on the bottom of the screen, so every time I say there's like a number that comes up. Or maybe it could be a giveaway where you have to count how many times I say in this whole thing, and then give the number in the comments at the end of the log. The other idea I had is my dog Noche was not a very good puppy, and we had a shock collar for her. And that shock collar, you would basically like give her a beep, and if she wouldn't listen, then she'd have a shock. And we were joking that we could put that underneath me, and every time I said Max could like maybe automate it so that it would automatically zap me. And then I was worried, like, what if we automate it to the word and I say umbilical cord, or Umberto, or we came up with a few other words that were pretty funny. So I don't have a little shock thing under me. You do not have to drink every time I say but I am working on it. It's my goal right now. I do want to tell you that I am not keeping a huge eye on the comments as I talk, because you'll see that my eyes really go down and it's a little awkward for me to do that. So if you have questions for me as I tell you things, I will be putting links underneath this when it's done. I have everything kind of written up, and I'll see what I did or didn't talk about in the end, and I'll put all the links below the show in the show notes and over in my Ravelry group. And if you have questions, hold them till the end, because I will say, okay, now it's time for questions, and then I'll look down at the chat and read them. So know that I'll have an eye on that in a little while, but I'm not looking right now, okay? That was kind of an important piece of housekeeping to do. We did go last weekend to Baltimore to see my daughter and visit her. It was the first time we had been down to her place in, I guess, a year. We went, I guess we went last October. So we went down and it was absolutely lovely to see her. One of the things we did was go to the American Visionary Art Museum. It's called AVAM for short, and I had never been to that museum. I've heard awesome things about it, and it actually exceeded my expectations for a museum experience. And I had also gone to a museum or two when I was in Santa Fe in August, and the numbers at the museums were really, they only had, I think, 60 people at a time in the building. We were all wearing masks, so you had to buy like a timed ticket. And I did not realize how starved I was for like real life inspiration, being able to walk around something and read something about it and then really look at it and come back to it again, and not have it be this thing I'm scrolling past on my phone. I've been really not enjoying being on my phone or being on the computer as much as I always am on my phone or my computer, and just getting to have that inspiration in real life. I didn't know I was missing it until I started to experiencing it again. So I know that I'm going to start adding in more museums to my kind of going. There's a few museums I can get to pretty easily from Ithaca. There's some in Syracuse I've been hearing about. I haven't been to the Johnson Art Museum up at Cornell, just reopened, and I've heard they have a very interesting exhibit with a lot of fishnets that I kind of want to check out. I think there's one piece that has a lot of fishnets in it that my friend told me about. So anyway, museums, missed them, loved them. On our way back from Baltimore, I was working on the next Lola's Choice pattern, and I guess this is a spoiler here. It has some placed beads on it. And I got to the part in the pattern where I was placing the beads, and we were driving through Harrisburg at that point, and we get off Harrisburg and kind of go along the river, and the roads in Harrisburg are not phenomenal. And I'm sitting there trying to like get these beads onto a crochet hook while Max is like trying not to hit the potholes. And it reminded me of driving in Costa Rica. We used to like definitely have some really bumpy roads when we drove in Costa Rica, and I would kind of hold on, you know, to keep everything, including the girls, a little comfortable while we're driving down the road. It was really funny. They were like bouncing away from my crochet hook. It was extreme knitting at its finest. And again, I just remembered how much I love to travel, and how I'm really leaning into doing the easy travels that are like safe and simpler, and feeling comfortable doing those again. And it's been a blast. I'm enjoying it. I hope you guys are all finding little local trips that you can do that kind of get you out there and get you inspired for sure. Over in my Ravelry group and my Facebook group, we are doing a knit along right now for Bead Isle Mitts and for Bead Isle Cuff. So last spring I got very into doing color work with beads, and I ended up doing 2 different patterns that use that technique, and we're doing a short knit along for those. The knit along is done October 10th. So you have the way that knit along is going is you just have to post pictures of your finished projects by October 10th to be entered to win the grand prize, which is a kit for our next knit along, which is a total surprise, and you're not going to hear about that for a tiny bit. The next knit along that we are doing is going to start on Friday, and it's a knit along we've done every October for the last pretty long time, and it's called COWLTOBER. So COWLTOBER is coming. COWLTOBER is when you knit cowls in October. And what's going to be different about this year's COWLTOBER is you can knit any cowl from any designer or a cowl you're just making up on your own. All you have to do is post weekly pictures on the Ravelry thread to enter for the week, to enter to win Yarny prizes. There's going to be a skein of yarn you could win a week for that. And then there will be a grand prize at the end of COWLTOBER. I always have a blast. I wear cowls so much in the fall and winter because they just sit really nicely around the neck. And I love to see what you guys are all going to be knitting for COWLTOBER. What's really fun about COWLTOBER is really all you end up needing for most cowls is one yummy skein of yarn, right? It's not like you need a ton of yarn or you have to have it really planned out. Gauge doesn't matter quite as much. It's a pretty relaxing thing. So by the end of COWLTOBER, you might have knit a cowl for yourself. You might have started in on your gift knitting, which I have a feeling if I look down in the comments, a bunch of you are probably already either thinking about gift knitting or getting into gift knitting. So COWLTOBER is a great way to kind of get that started. Just so you guys know, that is coming down the line. The kind of secret cowl that I didn't tell you about is going to start in November, and those patterns with kits are going to release next week, and I'm being particularly quiet about this one because it's pretty exciting and I'm pretty thrilled with these two designs, and I haven't done anything where I just surprise you in a little while, so look out for that and prepare to be surprised. Just a little like jazz hands got going there. I don't even know what that was. Those were my jazz hands. Now I do deep sighs instead of ums. Did you hear that? I was like, and next. What's a nice thing about that next kit and designs coming out next week is there's going to be a teaching element to that, which will be really fun as well. And I'm hoping to kind of get new eyes on my designs, people who haven't knit my designs before, and then those of you who are very comfortable with my designs. I think you'll find these two new patterns to just be like easy and fly off your needles. So I always have a goal for stuff. Down in the studio where we build kits, this week is N Club week, and everything got here for the N Club, and we are packing those out. International kits. International kits shipped to, I just saw in the comments that someone says they might have lost me, so I'm just saying that so Max can keep an eye on things. Sorry about that for a second. International kits for N Club shipped today, actually, and domestic kits, I think I decided today that domestic kits are going to ship on Monday. I think that is the day that makes the most sense, just time-wise. I learned my lesson with Lola's Choice, my smaller kit club, to not bring kits to the post office on Saturday because there's only one person working at the post office on Saturdays. It's typically Dan. Dan does not give me a happy face when I show up with a ton of kits at 10:45 on a Saturday when they close at 12. So I think I'm going to knit Dan a hat. That's my new goal, is that Dan is going to get a hat by the end of this year for the holidays. So have you ever heard that saying, kill him with kindness? I think that's my thing. So if anybody else has any extra hats or scarves or cowls for Dan, we could just like shower Dan with like some knitting love, and then he'll love the knitters again. Because right now I've been showing up with like so many packages that sometimes I think he tries not to do it, but his face might fall a little bit when I walk into the post office. It's kind of become a bit of a joke around here. I see that you guys are agreeing that Dan deserves a hat or something. We're not knitting Dan a sweater. I'm sorry. We could have like a round robin where we all do like 2 rounds and pass it on to the next person. The gauge will be all out of whack and he'll have his sweater back in 3 years. Speaking of things that take a while to get around but finally get back to where they're going, some of you might remember that, I don't even know if it was 4 or 5 years ago. I could ask Susie and she could put it down in the notes for me. we did a book around with Knitlandia when Clara Parks released it for Marilyn Sheeper. Well, it has to be many years ago now, 4 or 5. That book is in Germany right now. It is on its way to France in the next day or two. I think we're waiting for an address. And then I think it'll come back to me and go on to Mexico. And maybe there's one more person on the list. And then that book will finally get to Clara. And it's basically been on the road being read by all of you for the last 5 years. There's like a journal that goes along with it where everybody's leaving a note for Clara and to each other. And I can't wait. I'm really glad it's coming back to me before it goes to Clara, so I can kind of like look at the journey that it's had. And once that makes it back around, I think that it would be really fun. Ooh, I just looked down in the comments and someone said that it would be a good Knit Ithaca project to knit something for Dan. And maybe we could have like a station where I get a hat going and I have some sanitizer there, right? And you like sanitize up and then everybody knits around. That would be amazing. We could totally have something for him by the end of the weekend. Thank you, Linda. I see Linda said that. I had to look down and be like, whose awesome idea was that? I'm completely digressing from my show notes entirely. I love live so much. I like to tell you what I'm wearing because I'll get some questions. Knitlandia started in 2017, so year 4. Thank you, Susie, for looking that up for me. I'm like, I just know it's been a long time. What I'm wearing Leo, which is a side-to-side sweater with a center panel. It's got a cable. If I kind of stand up, you can see the whole cable on Leo. I'm sitting on a stool, so I'm trying to stand up. The really lovely thing about doing these is I don't have to wear pants, so I'm just wearing yoga pants. I was trying not to stand up too much for you because it's like from here up. I'm also wearing a necklace that I got when I was in New Mexico from a native artist. His name escapes me. It is in the blog post that I did about Santa Fe. It is made out of Fordite, so it looks a lot like agate, but it's actually layers and layers of paint from an automotive painting space, like automotive painting workshop, where they chip it off the chassis that they used to spray paint cars with, and then he carved it and turned it into a pendant. So it looks like a precious stone, but it is literally layers of paint. I did research for my husband that it is not giving me cancer. I made sure that it was safe to wear, and I got a little giggle behind the camera on that one. Goldie behind me is wearing the robe that I made with Liberty of London, and I'll give you guys a link below to the pattern that I used. I got a sewing machine. Finally, I went to school for apparel design, and I've been sewing on a FAF since 1991 when I got that machine as a school supply. And it's just been acting up and acting up and acting up. And then I sewed so many masks on it that I think the bobbin timing just it's never keeping its timing, even when I like work on it and clean it up and fix it. And I was just, every time I sewed something, I swear it would take me like 3 times as long because I kept having to like rip out the bobbin and try again and do something else. And everybody tried to help me on Facebook one night, but it was like, not the needle and it was not the thread I was using. I know to check all of those things. It's really like this machine could go in for service and the FOF will always be my backup machine. But I finally got a Janome. What did I end up getting? A Skyline S6. I knew I didn't want a machine with a touchpad. And at some point I'll do a blog post about why that machine ended up being the right machine for me. Because I had like spreadsheets going about it, and I got, I want it to be the machine I have for the next 30 years. So that was my last one. So I don't buy things easily. I hem and haw a fair amount and do a bunch of research when I am looking to buy something that is that big. I like it to last for a while. So I'm thrilled with my machine. And the first thing that I sewed was this robe, and it is I'm looking at my notes to make sure I get it right. It's the Melanie robe by Jolly, and they're a Canadian company. It's a very easy pattern. I would say if you're a new sewer, a newer sewer, it's not as detailed as some of the more current sewing patterns that I've read. But for me, it told me just enough information and not too much information. So it was nice to follow. And I had already made a muslin in flannel that I had been wearing. And I was kind of, before I cut into the Liberty, I made sure I liked the pattern a lot, and it's very wearable. I almost wore it for tonight, but it like wasn't heavy enough. It's a lawn, so it's very lightweight. It's a good summer weight, and I actually have some wool jersey to make one for deep winter. And what I want to do with that is maybe like embroider this whole band right here, because it's just like this lovely olive green. I mean, it'll end up being like a really warm utilitarian robe, but I think if I embroider this whole strip, that'll make it like a little fancier. What I will say about that is I have a lot of grand plans sometimes some really, really awesome good plans, and I don't always do all of the ones I say I'm going to do. Such as I said I was going to make a fingering weight beaded Fair Isle yoke sweater for Rhinebeck, and I really don't think that that is going to happen. At some point, maybe this winter, I'm going to pull out my knitting machine and do the body of the sweater and then do a beaded yoke by hand. I think that that would be a blast. I don't even get to go to Rhinebeck this year. It turns out to be Bella's fall break, and I choosing family over Rhinebeck, which, you know, if I had a time turner, I would do it all. But I don't have a time turner, so Rhinebeck is not going to happen, which means I don't need to stress out about a sweater. I am on my needles because everything I'm knitting right now, I'm knitting the Knit Ithaca design, which you cannot see, and I'm at a math point, so I need to have a clear mind and do my math for that. I am almost done with the second pattern, because the next Lola's Choice pattern has two patterns. It's all written. I'm just knitting up the sample right now, and I'm almost done with that, but I wasn't going to show you that because secret, super big secret, that one. So that's on not for this. So what I'm doing is just doing a big swatch with some Sneffnug, because I've had this idea for a really warm, yummy side-to-side kind of dolman-shaped sweater out of Sneffnug, which is the yarn that I used to knit Twistola last January. And I love this yarn. It is warm and lightweight, and it wears incredibly well. And I've always wanted to knit a winter sweater out of it. And I have like 5 bags of it downstairs in my studio that if I don't knit that sweater soon, I'm just going to put all of that into my Etsy shop so you guys can all make Twistolas with it. But I would like to make that sweater first, so I'm going to try for that. I just saw Viv said that I'm looking fabulous, and I would like to say thanks, Viv, because an hour ago I had my pigtails and I had my working headband in, and I was kind of like, I guess I got to go put some makeup on for everybody, and I ran downstairs and did that. So thank you. It feels good to hear. I am not saying but I want to get into some entertainment with you. I got a new book. What I want to say for this next section is, if you are somebody who is uncomfortable or offended by a little bit of cussing, maybe just mute a tiny bit for this section. The moment I'm not holding up the book anymore, you'll know that it's safe to unmute me and come back to it. If those of you who know me in real life know that I curse like a sailor. So I am pretty much have a filter on the whole time when I'm teaching, or I'm doing these, or I'm doing a tutorial video. I grew up in a household who, it's kind of a New York thing that curse words are adjectives. It doesn't make me uncomfortable at all. In fact, they make me giggle half the time. So I'm about to make you guys giggle a little bit. So just mute. Some of you might know an essay called "It's Decorative Gourd Season, Motherfuckers." It is my favorite all-time essay. I will link to it in the show notes if it's not an essay you know. I have been surprised by the number of people who had never read this essay before. I kind of thought everybody knew it. It's a family favorite around here. So I saw earlier this summer that they came out with a book, and it showed up in the mail yesterday. I did a pre-order so I would have it right away, and it came just in time for this log. And I'm going to read just a little bit to you guys because it's really funny. And then I'm going to stop when it gets really spicy. So if you're somebody who wants to keep reading it, I think it's a pretty funny coffee table book. It's probably a great gift for somebody who it would resonate with. Are you ready to read? Do you guys have your knitting? Do you have your adult beverages and your tea? Okay. It's decorative gourd season, motherfuckers. This is so fun. Let me show you. I'm going to read to you guys like your kids. There's your picture of your happy family, really celebrating gourd season. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to get my hands on some fucking gourds and arrange them in a horn-shaped basket on my dining room table. That shit is gonna look so seasonal. I'm about to head up to the attic right now to find that wicker fucker, dust it off, and jam it with an insanely ornate assortment of shellacked vegetables. I literally go to the store and I see a gourd, and in my brain I say to myself, it's motherfucking gourd season. When my guests come over, it's gonna be like, blammo! Check out my shellacked decorative vegetables, assholes. Guess what season it is? Fucking fall. There's a nip in the air and my house is full of mutant fucking squash. Now I'm like spitting. I may even throw some multicolored leaves into the mix, all haphazard like a crisp October breeze just blew through and fuck that shit up. So there's like a little hint of one of my favorite essays in book form. 2 more pages. Then I'm going to get to work on making a beautiful fucking gourd necklace for myself. That would be so funny if the next Lola's Choice kit was like a gourd necklace, right? If I just shipped everybody gourds. People are going to be like, aren't those gourds straining your neck? And I'm just going to thread another gourd onto my necklace without breaking their gaze and quietly reply, it's fall, fuckfaces. You're either ready to reap this freaky-ass harvest or you're not. So you can imagine how fun it was to have me read my books to my kid. I'm going to say that this is not a kid's book. Did not read that to my kid. I hope you guys enjoyed that little read along. I see that the beaded gourd necklace is resonating with some of you. In more serious books, I have been reading a few different things. I talked about this book in my last log, FireKeeper's Daughter, and FireKeeper's Daughter is by Angeline Boulley, and I would highly suggest that book if you haven't checked it out yet and you're looking for a book. I absolutely adored that book, and it's a great story, and it also has some really good lessons in it. I heard that the Obamas bought the rights to it, and they're going to be doing a Netflix movie out of it. So before that comes out, I always love reading a book before I watch a movie if I can. I just finished for a book group that I'm going to next weekend, Everything I Have Is Yours by Eleanor Henderson. She is a local Ithaca writer, and she writes about her husband's illness and, parenting their children and helping care for her husband and her struggles and emotions around that. It's very raw and real, and she's actually coming to the book group to discuss it with us, which I think is so brave because I just feel like I've gotten this huge window into a very intense period in her life that she just really laid open for the world to see, and probably worked out some good stuff while she wrote that. And that might, some of you might really enjoy it. Keep in mind, little trigger warning, it's heavy. It's a real book. So there were some nights where I didn't sleep super well after reading it because my heart was kind of breaking for all of them, breaking for the kids, breaking for her husband. But it's very well written. And it's also set in Ithaca, so I knew exactly where she was when she was talking about stuff. I could completely place her, which is, I think, fun to do when you're reading, when you know an area well that's being written about. I have just queued up Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. He wrote A Man Called Ove. I think that's how you say it. that I really loved. And I'm only 3 pages in, and I fell asleep with my face on the book last night, so I can't give you a review. I can just tell you that's next up on my serious book reading list. In terms of watching, I am watching Y, The Last Man, and that's on I think the Fox network. And that is actually based on a post-apocalyptic science fiction comic book series that I definitely didn't read. And it is typically not the style show that I would be drawn to. I don't think of myself as a science fiction lover, but I am really engaged in it, and I've actually been waiting for when they come out. I think they come out Monday nights or Sunday nights, and I have been watching them right away, so I'm kind of keeping up with the series. I'm doing the same thing with Reservation Dogs, which is a half-hour comedy about 4 indigenous teenagers living in rural Oklahoma who are kind of dreaming about escaping to California. And it is like laugh out loud funny, and yet it deals with some really hard, real topics, but in a way that is, it's super well done. And I would suggest it if you haven't seen it yet. I think you guys, many of you might really enjoy it. And this is really funny. The last thing that I'm watching, and I'm like clearly a late adopter, somehow the other night I started watching The Voice, which I think it's the 21st or 22nd year of them doing it, or series. I have never watched The Voice, but now I can't say that because I'm watching The Voice and I'm all in. I'm going to start downloading the app and voting on people and getting attached to them. I'm totally sucked into The Voice. So there's that. That's what you get from me. So I'm thinking about where I want to go with this. I kind of talked about stuff. We're doing really good. I am getting ready for Knit Ithaca, gearing up towards hopefully it happening. It seems like it still is. There's kind of some constantly changing things, and emails going out to everybody who is signed up for Knit Ithaca tomorrow with just a few things. The design I'm working on is really fun, and I think you all are gonna enjoy it. This is very related to that book I just read. What I've been cooking lately is Delicata Squash. And my favorite way to eat Delicata Squash, I always kind of tell you guys what I love to eat. And my favorite way to eat Delicata Squash, you can actually eat the skin on Delicata. So I just cut off the end, I slice it in half, I scoop out the seeds, slice it up really fine. I put it on a roasting pan with some olive oil. We like to use some chipotle because we like it a little spicy. And I just like roasted it 425 for 15 or 20 minutes and stir it a few times. And it is so freaking good that we can literally just like stand there and eat it without even like necessarily putting any cheese on it or like making anything else with it. We'll just like eat 2 of these because it is gourd season and I love a Delicata Squash so much. So I'll put a link below to a recipe I found that's super similar. I think the only difference is they don't use chipotle and I use chipotle. So that's my big difference. I just saw that Meryl's got some squash in the oven with her chicken. That sounds really good, Meryl. If you could send over 2 plates for me and Max, we would really appreciate that because I do not have a dinner plan. I quick bought some bread at the farmer's market this afternoon, so we can have some cheese on that and maybe some lettuce. You never know. I did make Caesar dressing the other day that was really good, so we also have some Caesar dressing kind of in the running. The other thing I got in the mail, did anybody get this catalog from Garnet Hill the other day? It totally got me. I thought that it was a yarn catalog, so I thought it was like a Webs catalog or a Knit Picks catalog, and I put it in my pile of yarn catalogs I wanted to look at, and then I realized that it was a clothing and boot catalog. I ended up looking through it, like they completely got me, and there were some really cute shoes in here and some cute sweaters. I think they were marketing to me and you, but basically what they were saying is there's some ready-made sweaters that you might like in this catalog. Most of them are knit with yarns that are much finer than this, but they're trying to tell us that they have some cotton and some cashmere and some flannel. And flannel, I don't know about that. It's like almost just not really true. I'm going to report them to Consumer Reports or something. I found it a little confusing and complicated, but I have no idea why I needed to share that yarn-wise, part of this traveling thing has been getting to some yarn stores. So when I was in Santa Fe, Farmer's Daughters was having a trunk show, and I got a few skeins and got to meet Candace from Farmer's Daughters. She had flown in for the weekend. This is this absolutely beautiful Pushkin DK. It's 100% Rambouillet. It is so soft and yummy. Rambouillet is related to merino. It's kind of like a high-grade merino fiber. It wears incredibly well. It's a totally US-made yarn. It is the color of my eyes, which I love. And I only got one skein because you guys know that I love to audition yarn. So sometimes when I see a yarn that I think is yummy, instead of like buying a sweater quantity and then not knowing if I bought enough or not, I'll just buy one skein, I'll play around with it, see if it becomes something. Sometimes these skeins end up like going when I need giveaways. So this could end up as one of the yarn giveaways for COWLTOBER. I haven't decided what those skeins are yet. I also posted about this new yarn that I got from La Bien Amie. Clearly, I like this yellowy mustard color a lot. This is Corey Confetti, and Amy did this really incredible thing where she blended recycled bits of all of her different yarns. It's like I think they'd been keeping like a big container of bits of yarn that weren't getting used, and I think they chopped it all up and then blended it in with Falkland Merino. It's 50% Falkland Corriedale, 30% natural recycled fibers, and 20% La Bien Amie recycled threads. So it's kind of fun. It's like a party, but it's also a hardy yarn at the same time, but it's very soft. And again, it would make a great hat or a cowl, or I got 3 skeins and I was thinking about making a cropped Tosca with it. But again, I have lots of great ideas. I don't get to do them all, so we'll see if that one gets to happen or not. I think when I think about wanting another Tosca, which is that short vest I released last year around this time, versus doing the beaded Fair Isle sweater, I'm a little bit more drawn towards the beaded Fair Isle sweater, so that might be what ends up happening. And then finally, I need to take a breath and have a sip of tea. Today, I got a very exciting email from Brooke at Fully Spun. And Fully Spun is a Black-owned yarn company. I believe she is from the South. And she used to make this really incredible sock yarn that was 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. There's 440 yards on this skein. What Brooke would do is very similar to like a spin cycle thing where she would dye fiber ahead of time, send it to a mill, and then they would mill a yarn that kind of mimics if you were making a hand spun yarn, but it is mill spun, but it's fingering weight. So, and it has nylon in it. So it's a freaking awesome sock yarn, and her colors are absolutely gorgeous. I really, really love her colorways. And something happened with her mill and they stopped milling, I think, altogether. And she just found another mill, but I think the minimums are very big. So she started a Kickstarter that released today. So I signed up for the Kickstarter. The thing with Kickstarters is it's not a promise. Like, you are donating money to a project and you might get some yarn back, you might not. It's very clear when you sign up that it's not a given that they're going to try. But I really wanted to support her being able to bring back this absolutely gorgeous yarn. And this yarn is going to be the giveaway today for this vlog. So at the end, I'm going to give you a prompt and you'll leave your comment in the show notes, not in this live chat thing, but in the show notes. And I'll tell you that at the end. But it is really, really a stunning, stunning skein of yarn. I don't know how many times I can say that. I'm really happy to support Brooke in what she is trying to do. And actually, when I heard she was first doing it, I sent her an email and I was like, if this happens and you get it off and running, can I get yarn for a club? And she said yes, which means maybe we can do like double-sized skeins for the N Club for 2022 or something. So that part of me supporting her is that ultimate goal is that maybe I'll be able to get it for a club, which would be freaking awesome because working with yarn like this is really unique and stunning. And I said stunning again. So I haven't said much, but I've said stunning a lot. I'm going to check my notes and see what I've missed. I'm coming in at the 40-minute mark. I try to wrap it up right around there. The last thing, just in terms of what's happening, is people have been asking me what's happening with Third Winter, which is a hat that I designed at the end of last winter. Basically, like, I kept thinking winter was freaking over, and then winter was not over, and there would be another winter, which is why this is called Third Winter. And it is all ready to go. There's going to be kits for it. The yarn is going to be here on Saturday, I believe. We've been winding up the small bits of Feederbrook yarn that I had left over from Ithaca. So it's kind of like a really nice connection of working with some Jill Draper yarn and some yarn I've been kind of sitting on in stash for a while. And I am going to release it for the first snow, because I think that kind of makes sense. So the first day that it snows here, whatever day that is, keep an eye on the weather if you've been waiting for this pattern. I will release this pattern and post those kits in my Etsy shop. So I've kind of got it all ready to go so I can just like drop it when it snows. Hopefully that will be after Knit Ithaca, because Knit Ithaca is a weekend earlier than it's been in the past. But for those of you who've been to Knit Ithaca, you will remember that that the first snow happened when y'all came to see me, right? Like it was a sticky mess for a year or two there, right as y'all were coming into town. So Third Winter, first snow. I'm just looking at the comments now. So now is a great time to drop some questions in the comments. If there's anything I said that you want to know more about, or there was something that you were wondering and I have not mentioned it or brought it up, this is a good time. I kind of got my eye there. I know it takes a second for the questions to come in after I say something, so I'll just keep filling space. Oh, the next thing I'm going to sew while I'm waiting for questions is the Wixton top, but I'm going to put like an asymmetrical pocket on it. I think I'm going to make this crop top, but make it longer and give myself kind of like a cool shaped asymmetric pocket. And I have some great fabric, the fabric I showed in the last vlog. I have that, and then I have some other in stash that I've been kind of dying to use. So I'm gonna get those sewn soon. Okay, someone was asking about the necklace. I actually talked about this a little earlier. I got it when I was in Santa Fe. It is Fordite. So it's actually layers of automotive paint that is chipped off of a chassis that they spray paint cars with. And then this native artist carved it into a pendant. So it's not agate, it's man-made. I love it. Do you have to complete the cowl? Katie, no, you can just post weekly pictures of the cowl to win Yarny prizes weekly. And then if you finish a cowl and you have a finished cowl, by the end, you'll be entered for a grand prize, but you're still eligible for those weekly prizes, whether or not you finish a cowl or not. So you could like start 10 cowls if you want to enter yourself a bunch of times to win yarn and not finish any of them. Judgment free. What? Oh, back. What colorway do I have on a bead aisle? Ooh, good question. This is Sprout. So this is this lovely kind of lime greeny hue, and it's got purple and gold and green beads on it. And I really love how playful this colorway is. I've actually been wearing this one a little bit more than all of the others once I got them all done. Basically, when I knit all those jewelry samples, I knit them all in my size so that I can wear them, and I have like 5 to choose from for outfits. And this one's been my go-to lately. Sorry, I got some fuzz in my nose. So Mary Ellen says that winter's going to be early. Thanks, Mary Ellen. Hopefully I can ski. And oh my goodness. So Sharon wants to encourage me to watch Only Murders in the Building, and I'm totally watching it, and it is really funny and good. And I'm sorry I forgot to mention that. Steve Martin's in it. Tina Fey's in it. It is making me giggle. I love a good true crime podcast. So I feel like they made it for all of us true crime junkies, right? It's right up my owl. I agree. It does go well with my Leo. So that's what I did. I had my Leo on. I ran into the studio. I looked for a cuff that looked great with it. And I'll wear these both again for sure. I'm looking for any other questions. I'm not seeing any as they pop up. So I want to thank you guys all so much for listening again. In terms of the giveaway, This is what I always do. I forget to leave a prompt. Or I forget to remind myself to write down what I want you to tell me for the giveaway. I think I want to know what you want me to talk about in logs. I know I say this every so often, but like if I'm going to start doing these every other week, what's fun? What do you want to keep hearing? Let me know below. I'll choose a winner the next time I do one of these, which will hopefully be in 2 weeks. I will let you know. I could look on my calendar right now, just like we're hanging out, like we're friends, and make sure that that day is going to work. If today is the 29th, that would be the 13th. Sure. So October 13th, Wednesday, October 13th, next log, I'll announce the winner of this skein of yarn. Let me know what you'd like me to talk about in future logs. I clearly didn't run out of anything today. I can't promise I'll always have such a spicy book for you. That was a special treat for the beginning of fall. Thank you guys so much. I adore you. And leave that comment in the show notes, not here in the top chat, because that stops the live chat as soon as this is over and we shut it down. Thank you guys. Take care of yourselves. Be safe.